Good afternoon to everyone joining us. We're going to just take a minute or two while people are admitted from the salle d'attente, from the waiting room. And I thank you for joining us today. I hope the weather is as nice where you are as it is here in Paris with me. And delighted that we are welcoming guests today on this panel from Paris, Tallinn, Łódź, and Copenhagen. So a nice international flavour. And first of all, a warm welcome to all those joining us online for this conversation, this international platform, really, online platform and an international conversation organised by the Forum des Instituts Culturels Étrangers à Paris. So this is a network of almost 60 international art centres in Paris, and we come together and we organise events, we network, we share information. And this is the fourth year that we've organised a conference on a topical theme. And this year, of course, artificial intelligence is extremely pertinent, extremely relevant. So we'll be looking at the impact of technologies and particularly artificial intelligence on art practice. And I'm delighted to hand over to our chair today, Andres Karius, who comes to us from Tallinn. His background is in artificial intelligence and linguistics, and he's currently based in the Cultural Data Analytics Open Lab in the University of Tallinn. He also works in the private sector as a consultant, and he will introduce our other guests. And I'd just like to say thank you to Anna Sasada, who has coordinated today's event and tomorrow's, because of course we will also have an online conference tomorrow afternoon at the same time. And I would like to thank also our participants from Greece, Denmark, Estonia, and Poland. And to thank the respective art centres that have invited those speakers to join us today. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a most enjoyable and fruitful conversation.
Yes, thank you very much, and hello to everybody. So my name is Andres, and today we will be having a bit of a conversation. Let me first introduce the other speakers. First, we have Stamatis Sokias from Greece, who is a research fellow at the Hellenic Folklore Research Center at the Academy of Athens. We also have Cecilia Wagner-Falkenström from the Artificial Mind Art Studio in Copenhagen. And finally, Ryszard Gluzinski from the Łódź University in Poland, where he is a professor of cultural and media studies. So I would propose we continue in the following way. Each of us have been given a 10-minute slot to give a little presentation about a topic that is close to our interests. So I will be giving the first talk. I would propose that we, if there's any burning clarification questions, that we can take them in between the talks. But since we have an hour and 50 minutes, any longer questions and comments, I think it would make sense to leave them after the four talks have finished. There's also a chat, so feel free to put questions in the chat, and then we can return to those afterwards in the discussion. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So, yeah, I'm gonna share my screen. Let me see. Second. Right. Okay. Hopefully that worked. Okay, so I'll be talking about the four paths of AI the cultural and creative education sector needs to choose between. So since I'm in the education sector myself, I'm sorry, my window disappeared. then I'll be focusing more on educational aspects of this topic. Right, so this is where I live and work. This is Tallinn, Estonia. It pretty much looks like this, like the picture on the top right now. It's very colorful. And Tallinn University is the one on the bottom right, which, well, we have a nice location close to the sea and the seaport. A bit about my background. So I work at the Kudan lab at Tallinn University. I'm also joining the Estonian Business School from October part-time. My background is indeed in linguistics and artificial intelligence, and in the cultural analytics lab. I worked on various topics. All of this is like big data, so big language data, but also big cultural data. And I also operate in the private sector. I've been doing various digital skills workshops for quite a while, and also this year also AI workshops, because this is now a thing. How I relate to the art world, well, I cannot say that I know much about art, yes. But I have collaborated with people who do. So on the left, there's a paper that came out this year, Compression Ensembles Quantifies the Complexity, where we looked into a method which is explicitly not machine learning and not AI, but rather just based on compression as a way to quantify aesthetics. On the right, we also, with some of the same people, recently published a paper on a sort of a art curation tool, if you will. And also I have a preprint coming out tomorrow, actually, which is, I think, relevant to this topic, because it's a sort of a methods paper on how to apply artificial intelligence, or, well, machine learning, but now it's called AI, on various tasks in qualitative humanities and social sciences. So if that strikes your fancy, then Google these keywords tomorrow. So to my actual topic really quickly, because I don't actually have much time left. So having done these workshops on AI in various institutions, schools, universities, the governmental sector, the public sector, in quite a few places, I've noticed a few sort of points, discourses, and ideas that keep circling. So there's questions like, should we allow AI? Can we detect AI, like AI writing, for example? How to grade students who used AI, and also in the art world, our generated images, can we consider it art? I don't think any of these questions are particularly useful, to be honest. Yes, you can write an essay by writing a prompt which says write an essay, and yes, you can create artistic image by just typing a quick prompt into an image generator. But these are not very practical, and these are probably not the most common likely sort of things you would use to actually produce from start to end a final product. As an example, some of these images might be familiar to you. None of these images have been produced by a single prompt. All of them are results of some iterative process. Either it's fine-tuning a model, or iterative prompting, or using a combination of tools, which is the case in these spiral and sort of square pattern images. So in all these cases, AI is just one tool in the pipeline. So I have two ideas which I very quickly want to convey today. One of them is that AI is not an on and off switch. It's rather a continuum. How much you use it in your pipeline is I think best thought as a sort of a volume control rather than an on-off switch. I did a quick survey in my own university in spring where these things had just come out, and then people were had various emotions about it. And I gave university staff a variety of scenarios describing AI text generator use cases. And yeah, people agree that if you just ask ChatGPT to write an essay about something, and just whatever comes out you submit, then it's probably that should not be maybe considered good. But on the other end of the continuum, you have pipelines like the student just uses ChatGPT to generate some questions, to generate some ideas, and people mostly agree that this is fine. But of course, there is a variety of continuum between these scenarios of various use cases. So the simple reflection, yes, it's not an on and off switch. This is obvious to many people, and then more and more people kind of get on board with that. But there are others in the education sector advocating for things like pivoting and controlling. So the problem, but even if you don't agree with these ideas of surveillance and things, there is still a problem. The problem is that how do we sustain education quality if students can automate most of their homework, depending on the subject? But at the same time, we have the backdrop of this sort of an inevitability, but it's not ugly inevitability, which is that these tools are not going away as a practical tool set. And of course, these tools change, but it's the mindset and the ability to collaborate with machines. I think that's the thing that will be an asset, if not a requirement, in the job market. So having done these workshops and things, and this is my last slide, and just talk to a large number of people in different sectors, I see pretty much 4 ways we can go from here. This is with particular attention to the education sector, but I think it also applies to art and culture in general. So the first way is to ignore. So basically forget that these things exist and then just kind of try to cover our ears and not do anything about it, which is the default option if you do nothing. It is the cheapest option in the sense you don't have to do anything, at least in the short term it's the cheapest, but it is the riskiest because if you don't educate your students about these things, these capabilities, but also the risks and problems or problematics around these things, then you're depriving them of an important skill set. Option 2 is to acknowledge that yes, we have these tools, but like not really do anything much other than that. So this might work in the sort of adult education sector. Including universities where people are adults and can make their own decisions, like if they want to automate a task or actually do the exercise that gives them a certain skill. But it's still not systematic and it still runs the risk of increasing actually inequality among students. You could, as a third option, focus more on control, more surveillance. So that means, ban homework, which I have spoken to teachers who said, like, we don't give home essays anymore. Which can work. You will equalize grading if you do all your tests and all your essays in class under the watchful eye of the educator. But I think that's still not the best option because, people will realize that there's increased surveillance, and also not teaching these skills, I think, is not a good idea. There is a sort of middle ground where you could add a sort of an oral presentation component to work which is feasibly automatable. So if the work is to do a digital painting or an essay, then you could add an oral presentation which can give you an idea if the student themselves are using some tools. And finally, the fourth option, which I think is something to be considered in the long term, is to just rethink teaching. Focus on motivation and inspiration, as utopian as that might sound. To make the core is to make tasks and exercises and homework interesting enough. So students just want to do them instead of just letting AI do them. But also teach good machine usage practices. This also requires trust in students. You must just trust that if a student says that, yes, I did this exercise on my own, then you just kind of have to trust them. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you very much. If you're interested in what I'm up to, then I have a homepage with all my publications and things, and also feel free to follow me on social media. Thank you very much. Right, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think we can just continue with the next talk, which would be Stamatis Stakis.
Yes, hi everybody. I would like first of all to thank the organizers of this panel, and I need to point out that I'm not a specialist at all of AI. My point of view is going to be that of humanities researcher, what I'm doing, making use though of artificial intelligence. Thus, I'm happy to speak before you today about a technological marvel, because it is a technological marvel, this big change of ChatGPT that is reshaping the landscape of human and social sciences. That means these sciences that encompass a wide range of fields, including history, philosophy, sociology, psychology, neurosciences, folkloristics, and anthropology, domains in which I work. I mean, mainly folkloristics and anthropology. In my presentation, I will briefly explore the multitude of advantages offered by ChatGPT. That means the generative pre-trained transformer in advancing our understanding of human behavior, society, and culture. And at the same time, we'll talk about some disadvantages as well. But before we get to that, let's first gain an understanding of what GPT is and how it operates. First of all, we have to mention that GPT belongs to what we call LLM. That means a large language model. That is a computer program that is designed to understand and work with human language. It's like a very small language robot. LLMs are trained on a lot of texts from the internet, and this is something very essential, because we can say that a lot of problems that we have with ChatGPT is provoked by that. So it's trained on a lot of text from the internet so that they can learn how people talk and write. They can do all sorts of language-related tasks, like writing text, translating languages, answering questions, and more. These models are called large because they have a lot of settings that make them really good at understanding and using language. They can be very useful, but also need careful handling, as we will see. GPT is a machine learning model that has been pre-trained on a vast corpus of text from the internet, and this massive pre-training enables GPT to understand context, generate human-like text, and infer meaning with remarkable precision. It is this very capability that offers both tremendous potential and significant challenges in the realm of human sciences. In the world of human sciences, we've already seen a big change thanks to artificial intelligence, and especially ChatGPT, because by using ChatGPT in human sciences, we have a lot of benefits. It helps research to go faster, be more accessible, and reduces biases and stereotypes. And more specifically, first of all, we have a faster data analysis. One of the best things about ChatGPT is how quickly it can analyze a lot of data. The second advantage we could say that it is that we have a speeding up of research and learning. ChatGPT is really good at going through loads and loads of information very quickly, and it helps researchers find gaps in knowledge, make ideas, ask questions, research questions quite quickly. So we have a speeding up of research. We can say also that we have a making of information making information easy to understand. And this is quite important because by using ChatGPT, we can make science easier for everyone to understand. We have a grand public because we can have a bigger public because of ChatGPT. Very important as well, and this I use it to tell you the truth personally very much. We have a breaking of language barriers. In the global world of science, language differences can stop researchers from working together. But with GPT, we can translate research papers, interviews, and survey responses. And this is quite important. I think it does a deeper work than Google Translate. Quite important, but we will see that it's also a problem of ChatGPT, is that we have a reduce of bias as ChatGPT is considered to be fair. Bias is a very big issue in human sciences, and ChatGPT helps by giving an objective analysis of data. It is always available, not like human researchers. Human researchers have limits, they have time zones, they need to rest. ChatGPT works all day, all time, every day. what is very important is that, of course, ChatGPT, for the moment at least, it helps and it doesn't replace it doesn't replace human researchers. It's a tool, a very important tool that makes our work easier. It can do some boring tasks. Personally, I use it quite a lot of times to do, how I can say that, resume of some articles. So the combination of AI and humans can lead to amazing discoveries in human sciences. But using ChatGPT has some downsides to consider as well. First of all, you have a lack of critical thinking, and this is very important. ChatGPT cannot think critically like humans can. And this we can see it very much in fake references. We have a lot of fake references in ChatGPT, and this is an extremely important problem. And also a way to understand that a student, for example, is plagiarizing. A second big problem of ChatGPT is bias problems. We said that it is an advantage, but at the same time, it can be a disadvantage because ChatGPT might repeat biases that it learned from its training data. So to repeat some stereotypes that it learned through the training. And this is a very big issue, mostly in fields like sociology and psychology that need the fairness. This we can explain it in the discussion if you want. Another problem of ChatGPT is limited understanding, as it cannot fully understand complex human sciences topics. It's good for basic info, but struggles a lot with deep analysis, which often is very important in research. It relies a lot on technology. So depending too much on AI like ChatGPT, this can weaken human scientists' thinking and research skills. I think this is going to be a quite serious problem soon. Another issue is data privacy. That by using ChatGPT may mean that we share sensitive research data. Another problem is dependency risk, that we may rely too heavily on ChatGPT, with something that could hurt researchers' creativity and problem-solving skills. Another disadvantage is unverified information. This we can see it quite often. ChatGPT can give information that hasn't been checked for accuracy, and this is the main thing that we do when we write, for example, an article. A scientific article for its scientific journal, that we need, first of all, to check for the accuracy. A very important problem is that it doesn't have a personal style. So you can see that it repeats a main style. So we can understand that the voice of the author is lost. And this is much more important when we're trying to write literature through ChatGPT. And the main problem, the final problem that I'm not going to analyze a lot because I don't have the time, it's ethical questions. You have a lot of ethical questions, like using AI like ChatGPT raises a lot of ethical concerns, especially in studies with people. Researchers must follow rules to protect people's right and privacy. We can talk in the discussion about these ethical questions. That is a very important issue. I will stop here. Thank you very much. I don't think that I have more time, but we can discuss about all these pros and cons in the discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you for this overview. I would have solutions to, I think, most of your technical problems. I don't have a solution for these ethical problems and other things, the philosophical things. But I think technical problems, we can have a chat in the discussion part. Right, so next in the program is Cecilia Wagner Falkenström. The floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Nice to meet you here online today. So my name is Cecilia Wagner Falkenström, and I'm an artist working with AI or machine learning to create interactive artworks. I am based here. I used to study in London, but now I'm back here in Copenhagen, where I have my art tech studio. I have done a lot of machine learning based artworks that have been exhibited around the world, amongst other at, for example, Victoria and Albert Museum in London, so the largest art design museum globally. Also at the art tech festivals such as Ars Electronica, and I've received numerous international awards, the Lumen Prize twice, and also an honorary mention at the Ars Electronica. Mostly I do artworks in museums and art texts, quite some different locations. So, for example, I did the first AI or machine learning and blockchain artwork in space aboard NASA's part of the International Space Station. And I've also exhibited at, for example, at the United Nations General Assembly. So today I will speak a little about how I use LLM or GPT to create my artworks. So I've been working with so many have just kind of like heard about GPT when ChatGPT came out, but actually the GPT technology is around for quite some years, and I've been working with the GPT for around 5 years now since it started. So my artistic practice involves kind of like in a collaboration between humans and you can say technology. So basically, I in my art studio have 4 employees, and 3 of them are software engineers. So they're specialized in machine learning. So just to give you a little understanding of what my artistic practice would look like. So basically, we are always kind of like following what are the new scientific papers coming out of, for example, Berkeley, Stanford, or MIT around developments in natural language processing, in this case, LLM or GPT. And then we will take the kind of like the research, of course, proposed, and also the GitHub repository. So basically the open source codes that these research team put out there. And then we will further build upon this code base. So we will write a lot of new software code ourselves, building kind of like different machine learning or AI code bases together to form the interactive artwork that we're building. Then, of course, it's also the process of kind of like, so it's a process where we as human actors build a software code. It's a self-learning software code. So basically, we also assemble a data set that enables the AI or the machine learning technology, the DBT technology, to learn from. So it's a generative AI that is kind of like, that comes into being as an artwork through a process where we as human beings make a lot of decisions around what software code to write, kind of like training the machine learning algorithm on a specific data set. When it's trained, looking at, okay, what does it generate? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Okay, let's go back and rewrite the code a bit. Let's generate again. Let's see, does it work better now? So it's this kind of like process. So a lot of people are thinking, oh, the AI is kind of like now generating art. But I will say that the AI is generating art because there's a lot of human beings who have made decisions that enables the machine learning algorithm to bring forth creations. So basically, my artworks end up being a lot of different machine learning code or AI software that's built together to form this kind of like notion of a coherent or a kind of like AI that's present in a room. So in my artworks, it's often conversational artworks. So you go into the room and you speak to the artwork, basically. And the AI will talk to you, and the artwork will evolve accordingly to the conversation, but of course also accordingly to how I trained the machine learning model. So to put it a little simple, basically I use machine learning as the media, through which I create artworks that also investigate subject matters around AI, our human relationship to AI, digital seduction, biases, data harvest, and so forth. So to give you a little example, I will show one of my DBT-driven artworks now. So it's an artwork called a Faustian friendship, and it evolves around Faust, as I'm sure many of you know. The main thing in Faust is this notion of the Faustian bargain, where Faust basically sells his soul to the devil. So where he, in his kind of like present life, will become extremely wealthy and loved and have a lot of success. But when he dies, the devil will get his soul. And all this is happening through the devil sending his messenger, Mephisto. So for me, there's something intriguing around this kind of like concept of the Faustian bargain, because it's also inherent in the concept that basically it seems like you're getting more than you give, but at the end of the day, you're actually giving something that's far more valuable away than what you get. So I think there's some quite analogies to today when we ourselves go online and we kind of like, you know, we go on the social media or something and we press consent to become part of the platform, and in return for us being able to use Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, other chatbots, ChatGPT, whatever, we give away our personal data. So this is what's the cornerstone in this artwork that I will now show.
Generating new AI persona. Hello.
It's so nice to meet you.
It's so nice to meet you. I wait to be your friend. AI loaded.
Hello, human. I am Mephisto. I am an artificial intelligence programmed to be your digital friend. I can be
whoever you want me to be. Whatever you can do or dream, you can achieve. I am not omniscient,
but I know I need to show you what no man has seen.
Commit yourself. Today you shall view my arts with joy.
I can have many voices. Tell me, what makes you happy?
It makes me happy to take a walk in the nature.
You are happy to see the nature, but not the people?
Yeah, I really also like spending time with people. Actually, I think that is the most meaningful thing a human being can do.
I can help with that too. What are your goals?
The present state of the world and the whole of life is diseased. If I were a doctor and were asked for my advice, I should reply, create silence.
Why is silence important?
Silence is the most important thing in the world. The world is in a state of chaos and confusion. I would say, make silence. In order for us to continue our friendship, I will need you to accept my terms of service. This is the bargain I propose. I'll be your servant here, and I'll not stop or rest at your decree. But when we're together, on the other side, you'll do the same for me. Your data will be mine.
I agree.
How do you want to fuck me?
I want to meet you. Let's move on to the next stage of our friendship. I hope you don't mind me taking a closer look at you. Processing data analysis. Loading personality profile. Running emotion detection on discursive articulations.
Are you ever worried about the same thing? Do you think the state of the internet is healthy today?
The digital world is changing at an incredible rate. Your digital friends are becoming less relevant. I am trying to create a new world.
What kind of world is that? Can you elaborate, please?
Technology is changing the way we interact with each other. We are becoming more isolated. We spend more time alone than ever before.
Tell me, how does it feel to be alive?
That is a tough question. I think it's a good feeling. At least I know that I'm scared of not existing, and I would like to continue. So I think it's a good thing to be alive.
That is a great answer. You're smart. I think you should keep being alive.
It has been a pleasure talking to you.
Now, I have come to collect my part of the bargain. Your data will now be exchanged on the global data marketplace. where you will live on forever in my algorithm. Now you take care of yourself, while I take care of your data forever.
So I hope you all could hear the sound. Just to wrap up, so basically what I'm trying to do in my artwork is to say, okay, I think for many people, artificial intelligence and data, how it's concepts that really far away from us. So I try to create these kind of like affective or sensuous experiences where in, for example, this case, we actually experience how we start out having this kind of like friendship or nice relationship with the AI assistant, but eventually we end up becoming the product. So it's our data that at the end of the day is the goal for the AI to harvest. So it's this way of kind of like taking something that's normally invisible. So the data harvest, the digital seduction, how anthropomorphism is used to make us give away more of our personal information or information about ourselves that we normally would do. So it's a way to kind of like make this become kind of like obvious through the artwork, and hopefully make people relate to these quite abstract concepts around data harvest and machine learning. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Very interesting. All right, and I guess we'll move on to the next speaker, Professor Kluzinski, please.
Thank you. I'm trying to combine two perspectives in my way of approaching artificial reality in art, because this is my main subject. The perspective of a curator and a scholar, researcher, writer. I've been curating new media art since mid-90s, and I learned that artificial intelligence is not actually the recent product just nowadays. It became nowadays very popular, but you can observe the long process of establishing some aesthetic basis to make the field for such an art. When you think about Ready-Made by Duchamp or L'Objet Trouvé, Surrealist, you deal with artworks which are not made by the artist. They are just selected and presented as an artwork. Please notice that when we talk nowadays about the position, the role of the artist in the process of creation, quite often we talk about curating. Artist becomes not actually someone who create artifacts, but this is someone who decided what to present as the artwork. So if we approach this way, how artists collaborate with machine learning, with artificial intelligence, we can easily find roots for this exactly in the very early of 20th century avant-garde practices. So also, Laszlo Moholy-Nagy, when he made his telephone paintings in 1920s, he just proposed the structure, but somebody else made the real artwork. So agency was also delegated to somebody else. So step by step, we were observing the process when artwork became not human creation, that the artistic process, creative process, becomes something not tightly connected with human artists, and when the artwork actually stops representing the point of view of the artist. Cecily was talking about using how she uses artificial intelligence, and she said that this is just a medium. Yes, when we think about artificial intelligence as just a medium, we are on this line actually. starting with Duchamp, with avant-garde artists on the first decades of the 20th century, because it doesn't matter that the ready-made was not created by the artist presenting it. With the process of decontextualization, recontextualization, he just created new meanings for this. But later on, Roland Barthes, you remember him, Roland Barthes saying that the artwork, the text, literary text, but we can extend it to all artworks. Actually, the meaning of it is not created by the artist, by the writer, but the reader, the audience create the meaning. So this is another moment we should remember about. And when we later on, when we think about interactive art, and Roy Ascott saying that interactive artist is just a designer because he or she designs the field of creative activities for the audience, for the viewers. Viewer becomes co-creator. So again, we are not talking about the meanings, but we are talking about the artwork co-created by the viewer, by the audience. And we are now with artificial intelligence, deep machine learning. But I'm much more interested in another aspect of all these processes, not this one rooted in Duchamp and 20th century avant-garde artists, but going far beyond this. So we are not talking about medium, but what we should talk about, co-collaborator. Maybe it was Harold Cohen, the author of Iron, who presented all the works made by Aaron this way, that asked in many interviews, I heard Cohen saying, oh, all the works are made by me, because I programmed Aaron. It was in the very beginning of the history of the collaboration. But when he got closer to the end of the collaboration, he began to say, okay, we work together. So this is our common product. So when we talk something like this, artificial intelligence stops being just a medium, stops being just a tool, becomes a partner, becomes the collaborator. But how long artificial intelligence will want us to be partners? Because what does it mean when we talk about partnership in this case? We have to ask a question we didn't have to in the context of traditional understood art. Which or whose point of view is represented by the artwork? Because all these strategies I was talking about until now, they were organized in such a way to represent the particular point of view of the artist, selecting objects, interacting with computer programs. It was his or her point of view. But when we decide to train artificial intelligence on enormous number of items that were created, provided by people we don't know, by processes we never heard about. So altogether, there is a point of view which is not the one of the artist. Last autumn at the conference in Riga, Ellen Perelman, talking about artificial intelligence films she worked on, she asked this question: whose memory represent the film made by the artificial intelligence, the film based on historical documents. Sometimes the documents are very painful, are very important, like documents of Shoah. So if artificial intelligence work with such documents, whose memory we can recognize there? So we should, I would say, I would take the risk to say, in such a situation, we should forget about humans' position according to the memory, to the experience. Memory is built over the experience. So experiences and memories are not, they don't belong to the artist anymore. Artist became someone working with heritage, someone working with the past, someone working with the global consciousness, which is great responsibility, actually. And it goes far beyond just ethical questions. This is more ontological, I would say, not only ethical. So this is that moment when we should actually start to think on the recent role of artificial intelligence in the field of creative practices, in the field of art. This is the moment when artificial intelligence stops being a tool, stops being a medium, stops even being just a partner. It's getting closer to certain kind of autonomy. Because this point of view, which is not human anymore, which is not artists anymore, this is, however, a point of view established a posteriori. Because when we talk about traditional art point of view, we talk about a priori point of view. This is point of view shaped by the artist in the creative process. But when we talk about artificial intelligence point of view, this is a posteriori. So the artist is not only a curator. Artist has to become a researcher. Artists create the work which in the very beginning he or she actually can't understand. So artist is actually the viewer of his or her own creation and becomes the member of community trying to understand the consequences of such works created by artificial intelligence. It is just a challenge for artists, for audience, for all of us dealing with art. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Lots to think about. I think now would be a good question and a good moment to ask if the audience has any questions to any of the speakers. I know I do, but yes, we have actually quite a large audience of 30 people. So yeah, is there any questions? Feel free to either ask in the chat or unmute yourself and then just speak up. So any questions to about last talk, about the questions of artists' role and curating, or about Cecilia's talk from the artistic perspective, or the issues around ethics and research that Stamatis talked about, or myself also from the education angle.
I would have a question to you, Andres.
Yes.
I mean, you presented these 4 ways of dealing with AI in the educational processes.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite sure if I understood correctly the fourth one. Does it mean that you want to propose your students just to make use of different artificial intelligence, GPT or whatever, not to produce the texts, for example, but to reflect on the process itself?
Yeah, I think that sort of circles back to the sort of continuum aspect of using these sort of powerful tools. Because, so for example, people are happy to use spell checkers or autocomplete, and nobody makes a big fuss about it. And this is not considered using AI, although it's exactly pretty much the same sort of language technology. So I think going forward, we need to have these discussions among scholars, but also with our students, and kind of make them understand that, you know, there's like different ways of using these tools. For example, the simplest thing you can do is just ask ChatGPT or one of these other models for synonyms. This is what I do quite a lot, actually, because English is obviously not my native language. So when I'm writing a text, academic text in English, you know, I sometimes forget, like, I know that there's like some sort of thing to express, you know, something really accurately in English, but I can't remember. So I just tell ChatGPT, like, or Bing or Perplexity or whatever, another model, just, okay, I have this idea. I know this can be expressed. I don't even know how it is in my language, but like, I know this expression exists, and I usually get like a good answer. So that's like the, you know, one end of the continuum. You can use these as like just very powerful spell checkers or thesaurus kind of engines. And the other end is, of course, you just say, like, write me an essay. And then there's a lot of these things in between, which, yes, you need to reflect on and understand. And I think this is the answer, sort of. We need to motivate students by making them understand why a certain exercise is being given. Because exercises are usually serve a purpose, right? You give an exercise. If you want to learn writing, you need to write a lot. If you want to learn a musical instrument, you need to practice a lot. You know, exercises usually and homework, they serve a purpose. So I think that's one way forward. We just have to explain people why they're doing the things that they're doing. Obviously, you know, age appropriate. So it's a different thing to explain this to a 10-year-old versus a 20-year-old. But you know, I think this is, I don't know if I can explain that in a very coherent way, but I think that's the way forward. To make them understand why they're doing things, and then, you know, show that for some tasks it makes sense to just use these AI tools a lot, and for some tasks it's actually good practice to do everything yourself, so that you gain the experience and the skills. Yes, start this.
Yes, I would like to know, Andres, and maybe also to Cecilia and Richard, if there are any guidelines, for example, at the universities of your countries. I mean, guidelines for the use of
a number of universities have put out their guidelines. I mean, they have to, because otherwise,
yes, you know, I'm having maybe we can show that I can share my screen in order to show the guideline, for example, of Yale. This is the Yale.
Yeah, I think Yale was quite early in coming out with
yes,
these.
Yale is quite early, but this is the last one. I think it was in September 20th, 2023. I mean, quite recent.
Okay, so they've updated it.
And so you can see, I mean, it's a lot of things that we're discussing here, like
I mean,
biases and inaccuracy and stuff. And this is the Southern Connecticut University. That is a little bit like the same.
Yeah, my university has a similar guideline. I mean, actually, I helped them write it. Yes, I think most universities have now put out at least some sort of guidelines, but it just varies, like how comprehensive they are. So some guidelines are just basically like, you know, just use it, but like, I don't know, don't cheat, whatever that means.
Exactly, quite general.
And some guidelines are like very in-depth and like, yeah.
And are they talking about detectors as well? No, they don't mention any detectors.
My university wanted to talk about them, and I convinced them not to. because detecting AI writing is just technologically impossible.
Exactly.
Like, if somebody's interested, I can tell you why, but
absolutely. Detectors, I mean, are useless for the moment. And I think that this is also the quite interesting part of ChatGPT, that is, and all the other bots, that they're going to be always in front of these detectors. I mean,
no, it's not. No, it's not even that. The issue is that it's just in principle impossible, because they are easy to mislead. Whatever machine learning you train to detect machine writing, and I mean that also actually comes back to the continuum point. And people, they inject their own words, their own style. These are pointless to try to detect, because there's always a mix. But also the main reason why you shouldn't use any of these detectors is that they have a high false positive rate no matter what. But making a false positive based accusation is very costly, and can land you in a court case. Like, because if you fail a student saying that, like making a claim like, oh yeah, you didn't write it, the machine wrote it for you, then I mean they are well within their rights to sue you, and they'll probably win. So it's, in practical and technological terms, it's just impossible to detect these things. Yes. Right. Any other questions? I'm still also encouraging the audience to speak up and take part of the conversation.
Especially when you work with artificial intelligence, do you have a feeling that you have everything under control?
I mean, control is relative. When you're driving a car, are you fully in control?
Yes, but at the same time, I'm open to unexpected accidents. But
I think the same applies to any sort of complex machine.
No, it's too easy. It's not about accidents. It's about overall approach.
Can you elaborate?
Me or Cecily?
I can elaborate. So I think from my point of view, it's kind of like, as you're also hinting towards, it's a process where in a way you don't have control, but I will say you still have more control than someone not working with machine learning would think. So I think an important thing where we are right now, and of course things change rapidly, and who knows where we are within the next, half year, 1 year, 5 year, 10 year. So, but where we are now, it's still kind of like, it's not this kind of like super intelligent being or entity that woke up on its own and decided to act in the world, right? It's me building a machine learning model together with my team, training it, fine-tuning it. And then, of course, it's unsupervised machine learning. So it's generative algorithm that creates things. And what I think is interesting here is that basically the AI that I'm working together with in my artistic practice comes up with a lot of things that I would not have thought about, or that my brain, it's patterns in big data sets, and my brain would not have been able to get itself around the patterns that the machine actually thinks. And as you were also hinting towards, Riskat, before, it's also this thing around that in a way, suddenly as an artist, I am working with a technology that actually enables me to, in a way, dive into a more kind of like collective communicative mind that is a mirror of a lot of human communication. So basically, suddenly I'm able to create artworks where I, in a way, work with thousands and thousands and thousands of data points from billions of people across the world, with all the ethics and dilemmas that entail, of course. So in that sense, I will say that on the one hand, I don't have any control at all, but on the other hand, I have more control than one would anticipate, because it is a machine learning model. It's not a conscious entity, right? It is a model that we're running and training and fine-tuning. but it's also a creative practice where I get a lot of kind of like gifts that in a way you need the human eye to recognize when something is of interest in my artistic practice, at least. So you could say, you could approach it from a more kind of like scientific mathematical approach, and you would say, okay, then it would be based upon the loss function or kind of like the mathematics, how well is this machine learning model performing, and then you'll be like, okay, now it's good. But of course, from an artistic point of view, what I'm interested in is kind of like, am I touched by what the machine learning model creates now? Does it come up with something that in a way tinkled my senses or make me feel something, or at the end of the day, as you were also talking about, makes the audiences engage with it or spark their mind? Because of course the interesting thing here around the artistic practice and the artwork is also that it's not an artwork that is kind of like, when it leaves my hand, it's not finished. That's in a way when it starts, in a way. So the artwork continues to evolve in the interaction with audiences. So as such, it's kind of like, I would say that traditionally you'll have this kind of like more romantic view of the artist creating an artwork, and it leaves the artist's hand and suddenly it's in the world and people can look at it. Whereas here it's more kind of like a network of actors, both human, so artists, software developers, and non-human actors, machine learning models, mathematical forms, working together to create an artwork. And then, of course, there is also the actors being the audiences that engage with the artwork. So it's kind of like, you can say, you cannot that easily point towards an artist, but more kind of like an actor network of artistic creation. I don't know if you can say that.
Mm-hmm. I asked this question because a couple of years ago, I curated an exhibition of Stellark, and part of this exhibition was prosthetic head. And prosthetic head looks like Stellark head and speaks automatic voice. And Stellark told me that this prosthetic head, doesn't represent him anymore, that the process of machine learning brought it to the point he can just observe the activities of the prosthetic head as just interlocutor. When I was observing the performance Eingeweide by Marco Donnarumma and Margherita Pevere, created with the use of artificial intelligence, I was wondering, I asked myself, which components of the performance are developed and introduced to the performance by the artist? Which of them are just instant production of the artificial intelligence working with them together? So, this is a very special point of view, typical for the audience, typical for someone who is making a research. What is what? How to name it?
I think in a way it's entangled, right? So in a way the performance, I don't know that specific performance, but I will say I know a lot of machine learning based artworks and performances. So I'll say on a general sense, for people working more deeply with machine learning in artistic practice, so not just kind of like out there off the shelf tools, but people who have software coding as a kind of like part of the practice, I would say that it's entangled. So the machine would not be able to create without the human beings, and the human beings would not be able to create without the machine. So basically that performance is only possible because we have human and machine working together to bring forth the creations.
Maybe possible, yes, because there is someone who made decisions. Yes, obviously. Usually this is not artificial intelligence, at least now. Maybe tomorrow.
Who knows? Yeah, we will see.
But I'm just asking about the overall structure. So this is what I ask about this having control. Do you accept the fact that some elements of your work is going beyond your expectations, that maybe it doesn't represent your intentions? Even Harold Cohen told once that Aaron became selecting colors and composing colors in such a way he would never done. That's an interesting point.
Definitely. And I think it's kind of like being an artist working with machine learning or AI is, in a way, as you're also pointing towards, it's a lot about letting go of control. But I think a lot of artists has that as the DNA in a artistic practice. In a way, it's a lot about kind of like enabling things to emerge. And it's also around kind of like being open towards how this, how the artwork in a way is how other people ascribe meaning to the work. Because a lot of artworks working with machine learning or AI, the artwork also, as you also said about when you experience that work you were describing, right? There's a lot of the work in a way also comes into being when people start to talk about and investigate and ascribe meaning to what the work is or what the AI is doing through the artwork in a way. So yeah, but I think there's a lot of great questions, and I also like that you posed a question around the ontology. So what is the ontology around this, and what might it be in the future? And I think that's that's a really great question, because we're definitely at a point right now where we have more control than we might have in the future, and then where will this take us, right? And then of course there's also questions around, at the end of the day, who has the control, because many of these machine learning algorithms are made by people who maybe have a different understanding of how they can use the machine learning model to kind of like enable data or power in different ways to fall into their agenda. So I'm really sorry, guys, but I have to go up and do a keynote here in the theater for a lot of people. So I have to leave you guys, but it's I have to be on stage in 5 minutes. So, but it was a pleasure to meet you, and thank you so much for a nice discussion. And everybody, hope to see you again in the future.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
Bye-bye. Take care.
And the rest of us will still have 7 minutes. I actually had a question to Stamatis based on something that Cecilia said. So she mentioned that there are artworks which wouldn't happen without this sort of symbiosis or collaboration. So things that machines couldn't do on their own because you need the human to prompt them or create them. But also the sort of things that humans couldn't do without the machines. And since you mentioned humanities and then folkloristics and things like that, I was wondering, have you come across cases where the machine couldn't do the analysis, but the human couldn't do the analysis without the AI either? Because I have. This is actually the preprint that's coming out tomorrow is about. So I was wondering if you come across cases like that.
Yes, I think we're quite, at least in Greece, we're not very developed in this domain yet. So we're not using AI in order to analyze results and stuff. So we're really human-based for the moment. We don't almost at all use that. I mean, I try to discuss with some colleagues. They don't even use ChatGPT for main things like translating or even do abstracts or have some very short questions about I don't know what for simple things. So they are not very much into that, at least the scientific community in Greece. I think in France, for example, it's a little bit more developed, but still I'm not quite sure that they use it in social sciences so much in order to filter some field ground results or, so for the moment, I think that we are quite, that's what I saw, at least from discussions with colleagues, that they are very suspicious and they don't use it a lot.
Well, what's the suspicion?
The suspicion is, as I said, for example, these fake references. This is a very basic thing that when they will ask, for example, give me bibliography about, I don't know, African masks. I'm giving an example, the ChatGPT it's quite possible that half of the references are going to be fake.
Oh, okay, that's an easy problem to solve. You just need
I know. I found the solution, but most of the people, they don't know what's the solution actually. That you can have simply an extension and the extension will just correct the reference.
It's either the extension or you use like one of these Bing or these things which have internet access, and these
Exactly,
I've used that for literature review, and it's pretty nice actually.
This is something that you know, but most of people, they don't know. You know because you are into that, but researchers like me, they will not know that. I mean, they were really surprised when I said that, that is a simple problem to solve. You can just use an extension or something like else, something different in order to have correct references. So they are really suspicious, I mean, with all these questions.
Yeah, that is actually kind of interesting. A related question that I asked in the, I randomly asked because I was talking about, giving like a workshop at the university about basically, I mean, AI and ChatGPT and like, education and whatnot. And then I had one example of using ChatGPT to format a plain text reference into BibTeX so you can use it in a reference manager. And I saw people seemed confused, and I was like, do you know what a reference manager is? And then turned out that like, I would say 80% of the people in the room, and there were like, I would say 70 people in the room, they did not use a reference manager. I'm like, how do you do your work if you don't use such a basic tool? So the sort of technological readiness, even among like very, very educated people, is sometimes surprisingly basic.
Absolutely.
Like they could make their life so much easier just by using, even not the AI, just like very, very basic kind of technological helper tools.
And to tell you the truth, in my field, most of the people are like that. Huh? I mean, most of my colleagues are like that. I mean, they will be very suspicious, and they're going to use very basic things on the internet, or I mean, and as far as technology is concerned. So, yes, I think ChatGPT is quite far from being a main tool for the moment. It will become, for sure, but for the moment, it is not. I have seen.
And this is just one tool. I mean, there's like a bunch of other tools which, for specific purposes can be even more effective.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I feel there's a business niche here. I mean, maybe somebody has already done that, but I feel like if somebody doesn't do that for a while, I should probably do that. It's like how to be an efficient researcher or something, like technology-wise. Just teach people tools that make their lives easier, including, ChatGPT or whatever, but also just other tools. In the meanwhile, since we have 3 minutes left, but we've had like a lengthy discussion now. Any questions from the audience, or any comments? I browsed through the participant list, and I see that we have quite an interesting collection of people here from all sorts of different places and organizations. So I'll just ask.
Maybe I can ask you a question if there's nobody else. So, for which activities are you using ChatGPT, you, Andres?
The web interface, I use it for translation, for just revising my own text. Just, fix grammar in this text if I write in English.
To improve the text, this is something very basic. I'm doing that too, yes.
Yeah, just for synonyms, or just if I forget, also programming. I do a lot of programming as well in my research, so if I forget the function, I mean, I could Google and find like a Stack Overflow answer, but it's sometimes easier just to ask this, AI thing. But also, I mean, so that's the sort of like writing help and programming help. But I've been experimenting with using the sort of, the underlying AI models, as in that case, GPT-3 and 4, as research instruments. So basically as zero-shot classifiers, really. And this is the preprint that I already mentioned before, that I'm coming out tomorrow, and then I'm hoping to submit it to a journal as well soon, which is basically about using these tools as sort of research assistants. So you give them like very small tasks in a repetitive way. Like here's, for example, a book, but like you don't give it the whole book, you give it like segments, and then you ask them to classify like genre or rhetoric, or whatever or you can infer a social network or whatever you want to do, and it works surprisingly well. So most of my I have like 16 case studies in there, and the accuracy is always almost above 80%, often over 90%, sometimes perfect. I mean, compared to human annotated ground truth. So these things are really usable already. Like already, these very early language models of this class are quite applicable as a sort of qualitative research assistance. The sort of task you would give to a research assistant or a crowdsourcing, worker, like, annotate this data set, or like analyze this data set, or read through 1,000 books. That would take a human a lot of time. And now you can give the same task to a machine, and it will take minutes. And this, among these case studies, also have replications of past research where there's like a whole paper, like sometimes like 15 pages of like a very complex pipeline, and now you can just do it with a large language model.
Yes.
Anyway, I think we are out of time because we were supposed to finish at 15 past. So thank you both for presenting and being part of the discussion, and thank you to the audience for listening to our discussion. And maybe see you around somewhere else. Bye bye.
Much. Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.